Good evening, everybody. Welcome. My name is Jessica Barajas, the manager of the Shared Learning Initiative at the Learning Policy Institute, and we're really happy that you're here today. This is our eighth learning session in our learning series focused on creating racially just and relationship-centered community schools. Today's session is titled Partnering to Advance Strong Integrated Student Supports. We look forward to unpacking what this important community school pillar is, its benefits, and seeing it in action through our panels. Some background, our sessions are co-designed with the California Partnership for the Future of Learning, and we match the local needs to the expertise of researchers, students, families, organizers, schools, and districts. Next, I want to invite Lucero Soto, community organizer with Sacramento Act, to share about who the California Partnership is.
Thank you, Jessica. Welcome, everyone. As Jessica shared, my name is Lucero Soto. I am a mother of a second grader and a community organizer with Sacramento Act. SAC Act is a member of PICO California Education for Liberation, who is an anchor organization of the California Partnership. The California Partnership is a statewide alliance of community organizing and advocacy groups advancing a shared vision of racially just, relationship-centered community schools that confront the historical legacy and generational impact of inequitable schooling in California and the country to birth a transformational education system built for us all. The partnership is led by Californians for Justice, Catalyst California, PICO California, public advocates with the support of Building Healthy Communities, Monterey County, Community Coalition, and Inner City Struggle. Our growing network includes over 30 grassroots, research, and philanthropic partners. Many of them are reflected here on the slide. Our partnership includes organizations collaborating in over 30 districts, 33 cities, and 14 counties across California. The California Partnership centers equity and elevates the voices of students and families of color in partnership with educators, and we focus on long-term systematic change. To make this vision real, we are advancing equitable and full funding, schools of belonging and inclusion, student and family power, diverse, prepared, supported educators, and student-centered, culturally sustaining deeper learning. Because of the hard work that so many of us dedicate, California is making bold investments in this intentional and effective community school strategy. So schools work for us all, especially Black, Indigenous, multilingual learners, and all those who've historically been the furthest from educational opportunity. I wanted to note that the fourth and final round of Community Schools Partnership Program, or CCSPP, implementation grants will be approved at the State Board of Education meeting in May. Districts that had planning grants will be provided this round. To conclude, I just wanted to share just some final and few thoughts, my personal experience with integrated student supports, which is a topic for tonight, both as an organizer and as a parent. Currently, SAC Act is organizing to support welcoming and safe schools and doing this by providing the community with integrated student and family supports. This has looked differently, most recently by providing Know Your Rights trainings and spaces to create belonging and connection to our immigrant families and students who are threatened and do not feel safe or isolated in this moment. We're also working to promote restorative approaches to supporting mental health and wellness in our schools, such as wellness centers, peer-to-peer counseling, rather than the punitive measures that are including school policing, which we know are impacting and targeting our Black and Brown students. And as a parent, I know my daughter and her classmates also have used the different services, including recently a free dental screening here on campus, as well as recently mental health course that's in Spanish for families on our campus. And we're able to learn the different resources on campus and how to have conversations, especially in communities that mental health is not always a topic. And so I look forward to learning more about integrated student supports with you all today. And I'll pass it back to you, Jessica. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lucero, for sharing about the partnership and also all the work that you're all doing with SAC Act to create communities of safety for youth and families. So, to contextualize our panel discussions, we will have later on in a bit. I will now turn it to Emily Germain, researcher at the Learning Policy Institute. And Emily will provide an overview of what integrated student supports are and why they're so important. Emily.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Good evening, everyone. What an honor to be here to talk about integrated student supports, a fundamental element of community schools, and central to ensuring family and student physical, mental, and social well-being. As Jessica said, I'm Emily Germain. I am also a parent of 2 children in schools and a community schools researcher at LPI. And I'm excited to tell you just a little bit about what integrated student supports are and what the research shows about why they are really important. So on that note, I will begin. So integrated student supports, or ISS, which I might say sometimes, is a comprehensive strategy to leverage community resources to target academic and non-academic barriers to achievement. Central to this approach is creating systems for schools to understand individual students and families' strengths and needs, connect them to community supports that benefit them, and continuously monitor their progress. Further, a research review by Child Trend notes that integration is key to this model, both integration of supports to meet individual needs and integration of the integrated student supports program into the life of the school. So it's not a totally separate thing, but really part of how the school operates. Why do we need integrated student supports? All children, but particularly vulnerable students of many vulnerable statuses, face obstacles or barriers to well-being and academic achievement. This is largely a result of policy design and other systemic inequalities. But research shows that academic performance and student experiences related to health, social, emotional well-being, family, and community are deeply intertwined. Children whose families are struggling with poverty, for example, and the housing, health, and safety and other concerns that often go with it, find it more difficult to focus on academics unless those needs are addressed. For example, researchers have found that these often labeled non-academic factors account for approximately 2/3 of the variance or difference in student achievement. This highlights the importance of simultaneously supporting healthy social, emotional, cognitive, physical, and language development because the science is clear. Intervening in a child's developmental trajectory can have profound positive consequences. And yet, schools can't eliminate or mitigate these barriers on their own, which has led to a growing interest in countering and closing the opportunity gap through comprehensive systems-oriented partnerships between schools and community agencies. Integrated student support strategies can improve learning conditions within the school, but also create institutional structures and supports within communities, countering inequalities and opportunity that make learning more difficult for children. When well designed, these wraparound services and supports are collaborative, including opportunities for family input, community-based, culturally competent, individualized, strengths-based, and outcomes-oriented. These shared principles of care provide the basis for understanding the integrated student supports delivery model in schools. Some examples of integrated supports, health and human services, such as physical, dental, and mental health programs, as well as student and family counseling, on-site childcare and early childhood development programs, job training and placement, transportation and housing assistant, child nutrition, like breakfast, lunch, supper, and snacks, and food assistance programs. So it really runs the whole range of different needs that students and families might have to really help them make sure that they are at their best and really ready to thrive and learn in school. So what do we know from research on integrated student supports that have been implemented and outcomes? Students who receive effective integrated student supports experience improved attendance, effort and engagement, higher academic achievement, reduced high school dropout rates, increased post-secondary enrollment and completion, and better social and emotional outcomes. So really many positive results, which is why this is such an important topic that we are all listening to today. So what this research shows is that students' success isn't isolated to the school day. In fact, they exist in a complex ecosystem or overlapping social and political spheres. And as children grow up, they experience interacting risk and protective factors. Protective factors like positive adult and peer relationships, opportunities to build skills and self-confidence, access to adequate food, clothing, social services, education, internships, and networks that build social connections can all help children and youth grow amidst challenges. Creating an environment that promotes these various protective factors while simultaneously addressing and preventing the risk factors is the central goal of community schools, with integrated student supports being the main lever to tackle many of those various risk factors. And so many of us here know, but just in case, community schools, right, are a strategy and not a program, a whole school transformation strategy where schools organize the resources of the school and community around student success. More recently, the Learning Policy Institute has helped develop a framework that is very well aligned with what's happening in California. That includes the 4 pillars, but expands beyond them to describe a comprehensive strategy for implementing community schools. For today in particular, we're highlighting this, what we call a key practice instead of a pillar, but same idea, is integrated systems of support. And that small distinction is just to highlight what I shared earlier, that to make integrated student support work, a systemic approach is key. Having teams work together, like an MTSS team or a coordination of services team, and not just a coordinator or a single social worker doing this work of connecting students and families with the resources they need on their own. That is essential to effectively meeting the needs of students and families, and what research has shown is the best way to get this work done, in addition to getting to community schools work done. And so I'd like to close out today with talking just a little bit about how integrated student supports are resourced. So building these systems is a product of blending and braiding resources and building sustainable partnerships. Federal funding, for example, like Medicaid and Medi-Cal, help provide for all kinds of interventions, more specifically often health and mental health. USDA funding for meals and nutrition is another stream of funding that's vital to this work. State funding, like the Children and Youth Behavioral Initiative in California, is a huge investment to ensure kids and families can find support for their emotional, mental, and behavioral health needs when and where and in the ways they need it most. This $4 billion is a complementary funding stream to the Community Schools Grant Program and a way to really help put these two pieces together. County level funding and services are also key, particularly county health departments. And finally, I think as you'll learn in the amazing panels we have today, local community-based organizations, nonprofit partnerships, and collaboratives bring their own resources and funding streams and expertise to this work in a way that personalizes it and really helps fill the service gaps for young people, their families, and communities. And with that, I am happy to hand the mic back to Jessica and welcome our panelists to listen to what all of this looks like on the ground and how they're achieving these amazing outcomes through integrated student supports and community schools.
Thank you so much, Emily, for that richness of the research background. And as Emily mentioned, integrated student supports can take on many forms. And so our panels will tend to focus on those that address student mental health and well-being. So to get us started with our panels, I want to introduce our moderator, Nia Dope, and I will let him tell us a bit about himself and introduce our panel.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you everyone for being here today. Um, for me, this feels like a bit of homecoming because the last time I was here was at one of these learning sessions. I was a junior in high school as a youth leader with OCO, and I also did my first ever panelist discussions about youth mental health myself. And I'm now a junior at Stanford, um, so I'm very excited to be here. And then before I introduce the panel, I want to share a bit about my journey with mental health and um, why more support for students at schools are absolutely essential to this, to conducive to a great learning environment. Um, so just a bit about myself. I was born in Vietnam, and I came to the US when I was 9 years old. Raised by a single mom and a schizophrenic dad. So like domestic abuse and drug use and all kinds of mental issues were always something that I'm very familiar with and is seen in my house. Um, and once I got the opportunity to come to the US, I had to learn English and had a bit of a time with like bullying issues and all that. But I just worked really hard for the things that I wanted. And I recall that during COVID, that was me during high school. I was like super depressed then. And then I just saw that there was just not a lot of opportunities or like um, kind of support out there with like at the schools or like with the people around me. And I definitely see a lack of mental health services. So I wanted to take that into my own hands and, like build that kind of support system for students. And I started meeting with a counselor and, talking to a lot of peers who cared and supported me. And, like I got better from that. And then that brought me to OCO with the mental health advocacy support in school as a junior in high school. And I had the opportunity to encounter Jessica there. Um, and then after 2 years working in this mental health space, I had the honor to pilot a new model for peer-to-peer mental health programs in schools in California. And it was signed by the governor. Um, and because of that work, 4 years later, now I'm back here at the California Partnership for the Future of Learning as a facilitator, which I'm extremely honored and tremendously excited to explore this topic together with all of you and the panelists. Um, so to continue this conversation, I wanted to introduce our first panel representing San Francisco Unified School District. And with us, we have Leslie Hu, who's a district staff at the San Francisco Unified School District. And then next, we have Chandra Sivakumaran, who's the wellness coordinator at Mission High School. And then we have Danny Washington, is a ninth grade student at Mission High School. And also with us, Dominique Beasley, who's Danny's mom. And just as a reminder, as questions come up for you throughout the panel, please feel free to put them in the chat. And then we'll try our best to get through as many questions as possible during our Q&A time after both panels. So with that, the first question I wanted to share with Leslie. So Leslie, can you walk us through 2 or 3 key structures that have supported the implementation of strong integrated student support at SFUSD?
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm really excited to be here and share our story and more importantly, learn alongside with you all. So I think in San Francisco Unified, there's a couple of things that are really kind of instrumental and foundational to sort of how we think about this work. One of which is that SFUSD actually has a strong tradition of thinking about our students and young people as like whole child. That vision is really important. And so we really think about our young people not just as students, but human beings with all that comes with that, right? And so that has been evidence in every single document, but also in practice as well. So as evidence of that, Chandra's is going to talk a little bit about what happens at Mission High School, but we've had wellness centers in all of our high schools for over 26 years. We have a social worker in every single one of our schools. We have a middle school wellness centers at every single one of our middle schools, right? So these have been an institution in our district for 26 years. So I think that's evidence of that. I think the other thing is that we have close partnerships with our city around this, meaning that we have had partnerships with the city, and we actually have three funding sources that we work with our school district that brings over $225 million annually to our student supports. So I just want to be clear, that's 225 million of money to do that. One is our children's fund that brings in over $70 million. We have our public education enrichment fund that brings over 95 million. And then we have a student success fund that also brings in $60 million a year as well. So that money all comes from, and it was built by coalition, right? So it was the community, labor, the district, as well as city leaders all coming together to say, we are going to invest in our young people. And so all of that funding goes either directly to the school district and or goes to nonprofits to actually provide services. So it goes to fund some of our wellness centers. If it adds supplemental funding to our community schools, right? So up to $60 million that was passed in 2020, 2022 goes to community schools. And so we have all of these supports, and these are all part of our city constitution called our city charter. So it's how we do schools, but it's also how we run our city. It's part of our city budgets and part of our city charters. So all of these things are part of the institution of how we do schools in San Francisco. And then I think Emily mentioned too, is that we do have infrastructure inside of our schools to actually coordinate all of this care. And we call that system the coordinated care teams, where people come together to actually manage internal referral systems, all of those kind of things.
Thank you so much, Leslie, for the very insightful and rich description of the systems of support there at the district. So as we heard from Leslie, there's a wellness center in every SFUSD high school, and there's a lot of funding and support for this. I wanted to look into an example of this at the ground. Chandra, we know that you've been at the Mission High School for 17 years. Could you share an overview of some of the most used services there at the school itself, and what helps the wellness center there to be an integral, like an important part of the school structures?
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be in this amazing community. Yeah, I feel really blessed and lucky to have made it to Mission about 18 years ago. I don't know, this is an incredible model. It really is. I mean, one of the first things I'll say is I'm a union employee, right? Like I work with Leslie around that. She supports us. But so I'm part of the school district. A lot of these, I think in East Bay, a lot of other school districts, these wellness centers are run by nonprofits. And sometimes, I worked at one in Union City with James Logan, and it's like an us versus them thing. It's not fully integrated. So as a union employee, I am a staff of SFUSD. I've always felt embedded within the school and feel like an integral part of the school community. And the teachers see me as a colleague. That's huge because, I support the school obviously in lots of different ways, which I'll explain, but I also have to bug the teachers every day. I have 6 therapists working every week. I'm bugging them to grab kids out of their classes for therapy and support groups and crisis interventions. So I'm part of my job as a liaison. I honestly, every day I wander around trying to make people laugh and bribe them with ice cream and candy and other non-wellness stuff, just to make them make them like me. But we feel really lucky. We have a nice big space. That's another big piece of it. We have 2 bathrooms. That's huge. It's nice, clean bathrooms. So we have it's the best place to poop in the school. Pardon my, graphicness. But that's a big deal. Like the kids come down, they're like, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom, gotta go to the bathroom. They come in, I see them every day coming in to go to the bathroom. for like, 2 months, and then something comes up, they're in a fight, they're depressed, I get a referral for them. I go grab them. They're already comfortable with wellness. They're comfortable with me. They come see all my pictures on the wall of, they're like, oh, I don't want to hang out with you. And then they see a picture of me with Steph Curry. They're like, oh, all right, yeah, I'll sit down. Let's talk. So it's like all these little tricks I use, and snacks. We have snacks, so they come on down for that. We have tea. They come in to get condoms and free tampons. So we have it's just an integrated space, and they come down for breaks, for lunch. So as well as therapy from the referral. So it's an integrated space within the school. Kids are really comfortable where we are, with who we are. I'm really good at removing what do you call it? Splinters. I'm like the splinter king. So again, like once I remove a splinter from your hand, I'm holding it all intimate, not intimate, but you know what I mean. Getting a splinter out, same thing. Like it's all about relationships and connections. So when I really need to break up a fight or get you in and ask you if you're going to do therapy, I don't really ask if you're going to do therapy. I usually tell the kid, like, hey, try it out for a month and see how it is. And 95% of the time, they're like, okay. Because again, it's all about relationship building, as you all know, because we all know. But we're really lucky, each wellness center comes equipped with a nurse, and she's doing work all day long around chronic health. She's dealing with severely, kids with diabetes and helping them with their sugar levels. She had to call 911 today. Some kid swallowed a pill. We don't even know what it was, but sent her to the ER. And then she went to the ER to meet the family there. So we have a nurse, we have me, we have all these therapists. We have a chow, which is a community health outreach worker who does a lot of triage. So when the kids come in, they're like, hey, what do you need? Bathroom, supplies, therapy. So they direct the spaces and run the support groups. Again, we're really lucky. I mean, there's probably more nonprofits in San Francisco than, anywhere else on the planet. So, I have relationships with Larkin Street, especially because I worked there for 3 years. So we have a person on staff every week, 1 day a week, helping with housing support, for kids who are going through housing needs. I work with City Surf. So again, because we used to surf, so we work with this surfing nonprofit that comes in and takes all our a bunch of students surfing every Thursday to Pacifica. I work with Naroga and mindfulness. They come in and do mindfulness in the classes. Rams does all the mental health stuff. Caressen does a Latina girls group. Darren does an African American boys group. Lyric does a queer group on Mondays at lunch. So it's just amazing, all these different partnerships. We work with a future center, just around mental health for all these kids that are going for post-secondary stuff. The future center is what really helped get 35 kids into Cal. We have the highest proportion of kids getting into UCs in the whole state, which is pretty amazing. It's kind of fun. But so it gets really busy, but I'm wandering around every day. And then there's also crisis management. So okay. I don't know my time check. Is my time up?
Thank you, Chandra.
Okay. Anyway, I can keep going. But I think I'm really excited. I was really excited to have Danny be a part of this as well. So yeah, I can answer questions later.
I appreciate the honesty, and I love it. It's very whole and truthful and just very raw. And I'm glad to hear that there's a lot of services being provided, and mostly based on community building. So I wanted to ask Danny next. So now to you, Danny. Can you share a bit with us about how you found out about the Wellness Center, and then what inspired you to seek community and services there?
Hi, my name is Danny. I go to Mission High School, as you guys already know. But how I found out about wellness, it's actually kind of foggy, but I had a wellness center in the middle school that I went to, so it was kind of all natural for me, like to just go into wellness as a high schooler. And actually, they have a better support system at Mission than I did at my middle school because Delaney. Sorry. Because we just had like only like little resources that we could rely on instead of, a lot of therapists and stuff, or, people that are just there to listen. So, it's way different now, but, yeah, that's about it. I still can't remember how I found out about wellness. I'm pretty sure Chandra probably bombarded me into getting into it though.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. So it seems like this sort of like wholesome relationship that you kind of see each other every day. At first, you kind of hate each other, and then after that, you kind of like each other with more iterations in time. Um, so in terms of that, I wanted to ask, uh, how has this interaction and this sort of community and the services just by that initial interaction have helped you emotionally and academically?
I feel way better now. I feel like open to telling people my feelings now that I'm not like shy about like how I'm feeling anymore. I feel more open to talking to people as well because I feel like sometimes I get pretty like closed off or feel like I don't want to talk to people. And I have a better way of expressing myself now that I take therapy in Mission. Also, I take really positive, um, I take it like very positively with my schoolwork as well because I'm able to like focus more. I feel like my attendance has definitely improved since I've been going to therapy. It um it makes me want to do something. Like instead of just sitting at home and stuff, it makes me proud of just being here. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So what I'm hearing is there's a bit more control over your emotions and have more tools that Chandra and the Wellness Center were able to support with that and teach you these emotional regulation skills. Um, and that's very cool and exciting. It seems like now you're able to use these skills to elevate your life and just sort of like, go out there and like make more friends or be more confident and, like have a bit more of a supported structure there. So for Dominique, so from the perspective as her mom, how do you think this wellness center and the interactions and impact here have shaped Danny's life?
I can definitely see, well, Danny will always have been an exceptional child. I can definitely see the benefits because she did feel freely to, talk to me and ask, what are my thoughts about her taking therapy. And from day one, I've been supportive of that.
Very cool. So she's very open and like
Yeah,
always.
even our communication with each other
I
has
love that.
definitely improved. I'm very proud of her.
How exciting. Wow, that's a great relationship. So Chandra, I want to, like turn this back to you. So how have Mission's high integrated student support at the Wellness Center impact students academically? So Danny was just one of those example. Can you share a bit more about on like a bigger scale that you've seen, like a bit more of like how students were impacted or positively uh, like changed by the support.
Yes, let's see. Yeah, again, there's so many different, again, we're so just lucky. Like just making those connections. I mean, for me, again, like I worked at lots of nonprofits and it's so much easier at the school to have this metric that I can turn to so easily. Like, oh, let's go to attendance. Let's look at your grades. So I'm checking that every kid that walks in, every kid I talk to, I'm checking out their grades. And obviously it's I hope it's not too diminishing or transactional, but it's just a way we can we can get into the conversation really quickly. Like, why do you have a D? What's up with these Fs? What do you need to do? Today, I worked with a girl on a presentation. I helped her type something up, and it's just something an easy fix. Like, all right, let's get that D up to a C. Let's get the C up to a B. What do you need? And again, it's those connections. So I do that one-on-one, but then also like with all these kids, the therapy can help because they're dealing with all sorts of trauma, anxiety disorders, whatever it is. And they can get through the therapy and get some support around mental health, which then allows them to feel more comfortable in school and attend school more. Tomorrow I have to do a home visit. This boy hasn't shown up in, a month. So the counselors asked for support. No one's answering the phone. So I'm going to just go to the kid's house and try and drag them to school if I can. Let's see. And then again, all these relationships, all these support groups, again, it's creating a safe space. Some kids, don't like me. They think I'm annoying or my 80s dad jokes are lame. It doesn't matter. They just went surfing with us. So now they love surfing and they come down to wellness, or they come down to wellness for the lunch or to eat lunch or to, use the restroom or to get supplies, or they love the nurse. So it's all these connections that we can just use as leverage to redirect them to like, hey, miss school, you miss these classes, you have a C, a D, an F. Like once you have that relationship, it's amazing. Especially that's why I worked with adults for a long time before mission, and adults, as you all know, are kind of irritating. So, with these teenagers, I mean, they keep it real, they're fun, they're, they're tough, but it's great being in this community with them because you see change, you see it immediate, they start therapy for a week or two and now they're coming to school. They found wellness as a place to hang out, or they need to all right, they don't like PE. All right, no problem. I know every teacher, they all know me. Hey, they're going to sit out one of your PE classes a week and just do some work in wellness. Nobody says no. It's fine. They come down, they're comfortable. Now they're coming to school. Before they didn't want to come to school because they didn't like PE and changing or running or whatever it was. Now at least they're getting to school and doing some work. So it's all those little connections, and then using it as leverage to say like, hey, try this, try some therapy, try this support group. But you have to be in school. You got to get to school. And it's just allowing them to find some comfort within the school, within a space within the school. And then there are other times where, we're walking them to class. Like, all right, you're late. Let's go. I'm going to walk you to class right now. Get in there. What do you need to not be late? Last week I bought a kid an alarm clock because he couldn't wake up. So it's all those little connections that I think overall help with attendance and with just grades. Yeah.
No, thank you. Wow, that's super wholesome. I wish someone bought me an alarm clock back in high school. Um, yeah, no. So it seems like the initial interaction after a while becomes almost like a very trusting relationship, where you're almost like directing the kids to try different things that might be able to help them. And that trust is so, so incredibly important. So thank you for your work. And Leslie, the next question is for you. It's a bit more sensitive. And what I wanted to ask was, many students right now are feeling extra vulnerable. What are some key SFUSD structure that are supporting undocumented students and family at this time?
So thank you for that question. And I want to circle back up to something that actually Danny and Chandra actually said. First of all, 18 years of working with Chandra. Lots of laughs. So I love that. But something that Danny said actually I want us to pull out was really, really insightful. Was around this idea that she was used to accessing the wellness center because she had experience with it in the middle school. And so that continuity of knowing what a wellness center is, she actually says something really insightful, which is that our middle school wellness centers aren't as robust as the high school ones. So but the idea that she knew what that was, and so when you got to high school, it wasn't a surprise. You didn't have to destigmatize it. You just knew that was part of how you do school. That's something that was really insightful that I just really wanted to highlight for us to think about it as we are district leaders or whoever we are, something for us to think about. So in terms of working with our, like some of the structures within supporting our possibly our undocumented young people and families, one of the things that's really important, again, is I always go back to sort of like the policy part and how does it trickle down. So we're really fortunate in that San Francisco is a sanctuary city and a sanctuary district. So our policies and our practices flow from that belief and that vision that every student, every family that comes through our doors is a human being that deserves a high quality education. And so we live those values in every day. So we have a program called RISE. It's called the Refugee and Immigrant Solidarity and Education Program. It's staffed by a team, and that team coordinates services across our district, specifically for our newly immigrant youth. We have a liaison, a RISE liaison at almost all of our schools, or I think maybe all of our high schools and middle schools, to specifically act as a liaison for our immigrant young people in that school community and their families. And they also do a lot of coordination across the school district, where we are really intentional about protocol. So, for example, we've all been trained, all of our school sites, all of our staff have been trained on what happens if law enforcement or ICE comes to our doors, right? So we all know the protocol. We have posters, we have protocols in place, and we have monthly meetings where it's a collaboration between legal, communications, the RISE team, the superintendent's office, labor, HR, multilingual, all these people get together every month to actually plan and make sure that we are, as a district, all aligned to make sure that we are protecting our young people while providing a high quality education. So those structures are in place to be able to do that. One thing is one of our staff is centered or positioned in our enrollment center so that they do intake with, like, I think we catch almost all of our immigrant families as they're enrolling. And so we're able to build those relationships right off the bat. We're able to like do an intake process, all those things. So yeah, so it's a really amazing thing that we do to really work intentionally with our young people.
Wow, that's quite impressive. To have such a, like a very strong, extensive support kind of network to be able to help like so many students, and especially the most vulnerable groups for sure. No, thank you for sharing that and the insightful comment on Danny and the middle school continuity of integrated systems as well. Wow. So Dominique, we're going to end with a question for you. Um, we know how important integrated student services are to students' socioeconomic and academic well-being. Can you share with us about the program you and Danny have co-founded in your community?
Yes, we have a nonprofit whom Danny is the co-founder. I'm the founder of Jump Through It, and it's really promoting healthy movement among our youth. We do have a safe space that we provide for the youth to come share their adolescent experiences and stuff like that. But primarily, we do focus on physical health as far as physical activity and just how that can be one of the aspects that helps with the mental stability, mental health. It does start with just our activity and just becoming more physical, because we do live in an era where it's just like the obesity is out of control. The food options, it felt like a full circle moment when we came up with this. So we're doing our best to incorporate all aspects for mental health, physical activity and things like that.
Very cool. No, I definitely agreed. I think the physical aspect is just as important as the mental aspect as well. And I think they're deeply connected in a way, like exercising and consistently and all that stuff, getting movement out in the way is always one of the best ways to manage your emotions on the spot for sure. So I deeply appreciate the work that you're doing for the community. Um, well, that was an incredibly rich discussion. And please feel free to put your questions for the SF USD panel into the chat. And then we'll try to get through as many as possible when later on we have a joint Q&A after the second panel. And next up, I want to invite our second panel up, featuring Lynwood Unified School District. So with us, we have Maribel Martinez. She's the Director of Student Services at Lynwood Unified School District. We also have Carolina Gabriel, the Clinical Manager and Associate Professional Clinical Counselor at LA CADA, or the Los Angeles Center for Alcohol and Drug Use. And then lastly, we have the pleasure of having Naomi Herrera, a 10th grader student from Lynwood High School. And Maribel, the first question is for you. Can you walk us through 2 to 3 key structures that have supported a strong implementation of integrated school support at Lynwood Unified?
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Maribel Martinez from Lynwood Unified School District. I think for us in Lynwood, our story truly started about 17, 18 years ago when we started our health collaborative. And our health collaborative started with just 2 partners, which were 2 mental health agencies. I'll call them out by name, which was Masada Homes and Starview, who were willing to come into our schools and work with our students. And for us at that time, if you remember 17 years ago, we weren't used to having mental health services. A lot of us weren't even comfortable speaking of it. So it was very new to our district, but our district was very, very open to bringing in resources to our families because many of the things that were happening at that time were students that were having behavior issues, it was a suspension. So we didn't have the resources that we have now in place. So at that time, when we had our health collaborative, it started with 2 partners. We now have 42 partners, 43 partners, and it continues to grow every year. And these are different agencies that work with us, that provide mental health support, substance abuse support, community resources for our most neediest students population. We want to make sure that we have the resources. We as a district are the place that our families come to because they trust us. So we refer them out. We have a strong referral system. Our vision to ensure that we support our Tier 3 students is very, very intentional. I think one of the biggest things that has truly helped our relationships in our health collaborative is we have people assigned in the district that work with our partners. So before they become part of our partners, we visit the site. We make sure that the services that they're going to provide to our families are services that we would want for our families ourselves. So ensuring that those services started 17 years ago, we're now in a place where we have all these partners. We have SEL specialists district-wide. We have licensed clinical social workers. We have community school case managers. We have community liaisons on site. So it really has evolved the last 17 years because of those things, because of the strong partnerships that we had 17 years ago, that started 17 years ago with our partners, our vision as a district to ensure that we're supporting all our students, and of course, maintaining those strong partnerships because as we see our financial future, there's some insecurities. We want to make sure we go back to if for whatever reason we could never sustain our families will always have a support system within our community. So I think those were some of the points for us in Lynwood Unified that has truly helped bring in those systems to our district and to our families within the integrated supports.
Oh, wonderful. Um, so it's been a bit of quite a long journey, 17 years, and um, I'm very glad that you're still managing to balance, in this insanely unstable water with, like funding and the environment right now. So very honored. So Carolina, we know that the Los Angeles CATA department is part of the Health Collaborative of Lynwood Unified. Can you tell us a bit more about the services you provide and then what inspired you to join the team?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Carolina, and I'm the clinical manager for LA Cata's Youth and Family Services Department. And we're a nonprofit agency that currently works with 4 different school districts, including Lynwood Unified. And what part of our mission is to save lives. And how we do so is by providing strategies, knowledge, education, empowering our students in our community. And we've had the opportunity to work with LA Unified School District, Lynwood Unified. I'm so sorry, Lynwood Unified School District for the past 3 years, and we're just here to provide education on addiction and behavioral health issues. We work with mental health, providing TFCBT, providing health education. So that's a little bit about LA Cata, just what the youth department, but we're a nonprofit agency that works with also the adult population. We've been in this field for over 60 years. So being able to work with our youth population has been near and dear to my heart. Before coming to the youth department, I was providing services to our inmates at Men's Central Jail. And every single one of the lives that I was able to interact with, they never had the opportunity to receive services at any point, whether in childhood or their teenage years. And we know that those are the formative years. So being able to join the youth department has allowed me to be able to make a difference. And we're so thankful to Lynwood Unified because we can start planting those seeds of hope, being able to break those barriers and empower the community.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that vulnerable space with us and like sharing the incredible things that you're working for and with and the purpose of why you're doing it. And I can tell how much you love the young people just by the way you talk. Um, so Naomi, we're really very, very excited to hear from the student perspective. So what make you or motivated you initially to seek services at Alicata?
Hi everyone, my name is Naomi. I'm a 10th grade student at Lynwood High School, and what actually motivated me to seek service at at LA Cata was school because of my daily day actions. I started to notice they were having a big negative impact on school. So I wanted to start a new journey. So obviously I needed help. And then I heard from LA Cata from actually one of my school counselors.
Nice. Um, so still on this question with me, Naomi, how do you think the Alicata services have supported your mental health journey and connection to school? Would you be able to expand more on that, like tell a bit more of anecdotal story and
Yeah, I feel like the LA Cata has helped in my mental health journeys. So my mental health journey in a positive way because I feel better with myself and interacting with people it's easier and I feel connected. I feel really connected now to the people now. And by school, I feel motivated to go to school. And I also feel as long as my mental health is good, I will obviously do good at school. And that's something ELA CATA can provide for me.
Interesting. Wow. So it seems like before receiving the support from LA Cata, you had a bit more of a struggle with like emotional management, right?
Yeah,
And then after that, you're able to kind of match your emotions a bit better. And then after, because of that, then you feel motivated to continue schooling. And then, like being surrounded and loved by the people around you.
yeah.
Thank you so much for insights.
You.
Maribel, the next question is for you. What are the ways that Lynwood Unify is supporting undocumented students and their family?
Yeah, so this has been a very sensitive situation for us here in Lynwood. We do have a lot of undocumented students in our district. And we actually started this journey in November when we saw kind of some signs and we started bringing awareness to our district on and to parents on protocols on this is a safe haven. We got the district board policies updated to ensure that everybody in our community, our parents, our staff know that no matter what, our students and our families are safe while they're in school because everybody deserves to go to school and feel safe. So we started talking about this November of 2024. We started having workshops, and as you know, we have case managers at all our district at every single school because of our community schools grant. So we were able to bring these trainings since November to all our school sites. They continued in January. We had them here at the district office. We have them for staff meetings just so they know what the protocols are. We trained all administrators on the process, and we did this for, since November all the way up to February, ensuring that everybody knew that we're all on the same page, we're all saying the same thing, because we want our families to feel safe. We we've had this struggle before when years back because I was in this position back then and we did it back then, but now we did it again in a more aggressive way because it felt different this time. So we wanted to make sure that our families knew that if they needed support, if they needed emotional support, if they needed resources, we have our weekly food pantry here, and many families felt a little nervous about coming to the food pantry. So many of our case managers delivered the food because we wanted to make sure that the families still have those resources. So, using our case managers, our community school case managers, they were very key, and the community liaisons, they were very key to ensuring that our parents knew the information. Our attendance did go down. It did decrease a good 20% when we were doing our chronic absenteeism rate had improved. And after January, it did worsen. So we had to make sure that we were more aggressive on ensuring that our family and our communities felt safe. So I think training, awareness, providing parents, all this information, helped because our attendance is improving. It has improved the last 2 months. So we're very grateful for that and just making sure that our students and families know that and staff that this is a safe haven with all the actions that we've taken.
Well, thank you so much for that. Um, it's a very, very respectable work, and it seems like your mission and your drive and your purpose is showing wonderful results in this very challenging times. And then what touched my heart was when you said the how chronic absenteeism has been decreasing, and then because of the new uh, like waves of chaos, it seems like that's been a challenging thing to kind of counter that.
Mhm.
Uh, wow. So Carolina, in terms of Alicata and in regards to the documented students uh, and the work that you do there. Can you share a bit more of anecdotal stories or more of your encounters or experiences, like with the current students right now in this challenging time?
Yes, one one of the things at Elicata we've been able to do is we have a SAMHSA grant. It's called Certified Community Behavioral Health, the CCBHC. And this allows us to provide free services to our undocumented students and students who are not eligible for Medi-Cal between the ages of 12 to 17 that are experiencing severe emotional disturbance or experiencing substance use problems. Not only are the services free, but we have staff to provide services in the preferred language. And we try to accommodate all families. We know that this is an issue. We've seen the decline here at even in our home site. So we try to do the best we can to accommodate and understand that there is this fear and anxiousness, but we try to like Dr. Martinez said, be a safe haven, be a safe space for our students, our families. We provide resources. We also have protocols in place to ensure that we protect them at all cost.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so it seems like the support itself is like very extensive and strong as well. And it seems like everyone is trying to do their best in these very challenging times to be able to support these vulnerable population as much as they can. Thank you for your work. So just want to say a big thank you to the Lynwood Unified Panel. It is incredibly encouraging and heartfelt to hear that you are doing incredible work for many, many students. And thank you, Naomi, for your courage to share and inspire other students. That's a wonderful insight. And then we'll now bring up the SFUC team to join us in the joint Q&A. All right. So for all the questions submitted in the chat, we'll try to get as many as possible. So please be patient with us as we kind of navigate this. There's a lot to get through, and we'll try our best to get through as much as we can. So the first question is from Esmeralda Guzman from the Los Angeles Trust for Children's Health. The question is, how can I support my school in using these resources and information from this meeting? What are some initial steps to take and to get started on this work? So possibly Chantra or like Maribel, through your experiences, would you be able to share some insights of how this person can get started?
Yeah, I would recommend to do an analysis of what agencies are around the local community that are willing to support the mission of the district or of the or agency that is needing the resources, because there's a lot of agencies that want to help. And they would visit the site and build a relationship to see if that's a fit to what the district's vision is to provide those resources for families. And then you build a relationship based on what the work is, and you introduce it to the families in a structured format. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I'd second that. It's just partnerships. Start small, start big, whatever you can. Any partnership you can possibly find. Mental health folks, mindfulness folks, little things. I started a thrift store. We call it a bear closet, full of clothes and shoes and toiletries. We bought some. We have stuff donated. That's just a place to, especially we have 250 newcomers. These families show up. Day one in the country, we send them in there with a bag, and they get to just take whatever they need for the students, and even for the adults. We have diapers, body wipes. It's all that's all facets of social work and community work with these populations. So just start small, and it'll slowly expand.
Nice, perfect. So starting small and just sort of like getting started, and and to be able to like kind of build momentum, and then from there on you can expand into many different things, right? Okay. Next question is from Andre Spearman. The question is, do you talk to your friends who may be shy about seeking support? If so, how do you encourage them to get support? And how do you bring up the conversation? Um, Maybe Danny or Naomi can take this up. Maybe we'll start with Naomi first.
Okay, so how do I encourage my classmates or like one of my close friends to like have access to ELA Cara? So I start bringing into conversation if I see like they're going through something. I'm like, hey, are you okay? Or like you can talk to me and everything. And I just kind of try to like slide ELA Cara, and I'll be like, oh, there's like this program that really helps you. And it's like it helps you a lot to grow as a person, because I told them about my experience, and so they can have like a little reference about it. So that's kind of how I try to talk about ELA Cara.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Danny, would you be able to?
There hasn't been any situation where I had to bring up wellness to one of my friends, but if I did have to, I would definitely tell them, there's places that you can go. People are there to listen. People are there to help you, not telling somebody and like keeping your feelings all bottled up can really like affect your mental health. They can like seriously destroy you. So like if you don't like take it seriously enough, then you know there's gonna be consequences of not taking your mental health seriously. And getting to that point, sometimes it's like to where it's like not reversible, like where you feel like you can't seek any more help. So I would hopefully like try to help my friends before it gets to that point, but there hasn't been anything that I've had to, address.
Nice. Thank you for the insight. And the next question is from Amanda Ammon from the Europe tribe. The question is, can integrated student support help us to lessen the amount of screen time students receive in class? Are there other things you think that can help to reduce the amount of screen time? It's actually a very interesting question. Um, let's have Leslie or Dominique help us with this. And uh, yeah,
I love this question because I do think screen time is becoming a phenomena that like I think as educators, as parents we're really wrestling with. One of the things that I think that's a core part of community schooling is actually creating a culture of listening, with listening to young people and our families, as well as our educators that come in, like these four stakeholder groups, right? But one of the things that I think about, like in at my previous school where I was a community school coordinator, what we did was we actually did an assessment of all of these various health factors. I think we had like 7 different domains, and one of which was screen time. And so we actually asked our young people like about their own screen time, what they thought about it. And it was really, really honest. And middle schoolers were really thoughtful about like, yeah, this is like a black hole for me. I feel addicted to it. It wasn't like it was a really honest assessment. And also, part of that honesty is like how fun it is and how I feel connected to my classmates. And it's where I learn a lot of cool stuff. And so it was this sort of, it's nuanced view, but as because of that culture of listening and that assessment that we did, we're able to tailor programming at the school site based on that, right? And so we saw, and, it was like sleep too. It was like sleep and drugs and screen time. And we actually started creating company partnerships as well as programming with our after school program that actually put on workshops, that did a whole thing to address that very issue based on the young people's feedback, right? And so I think it really am I going too fast? Okay. So I think it really started off with just how do we stop time? Is that what I hear? I see fingers telling me to stop. Okay, bye. Thanks.
No worries. Thank you so much for that insight. That was actually very rich. So next question is from Diane Ortiz, Youth Alliance. How do restorative justice and restorative practice fit in with this wellness model? So probably Chandra or like Carolina can help us with this.
Yeah, I can go real quick. Yeah, I mean it's really nice. Restorative justice, it's really cute. It's felt like a little fad for a while. I mean, we still do it, we try to do it, but it's just a lot of work. And again, it goes back to resources. We had a restorative, I mean, just keeping it 100, as the kids say. We had a restorative justice coordinator at every school. And so it was their job to go meet every time there was a dispute, a conflict. It was their job to do the back end work, meet with each kid separately with their families, then bring them together, then meet with them afterwards. And then all that funding got cut. And so, it's a nice idea. It's a little tougher to do it these days. We always try, but it's really hard to, I mean, just if to do it well, it just takes a lot of time and energy. We're lucky, again, we have peer resources. We do peer-to-peer mediations. I do mediations with the teachers and kids myself, but and we'll use restorative practices, but that's a tough one to do it really well.
Yes. Carolina, would you be about to add
Well,
on?
we have the opportunity to do more of the one-on-one with the youth. And we also, part of the programming, we do anger management, other alternatives, and to be able to promote that social emotional growth and reduce the conflict and provide strategies to the youth to be able to not engage in conflict. And that's part of, the strategies that we provide. And when we work with the youth, we're like, the strategies that you guys are using now, it's not helping because it's negatively impacting, whether school, home life. So we tried to, part of our mission is to provide just different strategies, different coping skills to be able to help them not engage or continue in this conflict.
Very cool. Wow, no, that's very insightful and really, like realistic in terms of like portrayal of how it is, right? In terms of the work itself is intense restorative justice work. Um, and like now in terms of the new ways of chaos, right? It's much harder and for to be able to do that because there's not enough funding and there's not enough support, and so we have to try to figure out like a creative way to go around this, right? So whether it's peer-to-peer or like other kind of support, so thinking about that is very important, and then I appreciate you both for sharing this. Okay, the next question is from Ruth Cusick. Um, this is a parent. So as a parent, we've been sending our daughter to community school at governance with family. Sorry, let me rephrase this question. As a parent who has been sending daughter to community school, how has the structure can help to support this shared governance? Almost like how can the parent itself can like work with the community school structures to help elevate and support the students? So I want to turn this down back to Dominique.
And what was the question? Like, did you want for me to specifically answer?
Yeah, so the question is in terms of community school and like the pillars and support of that. She's asking how might a parent fit in. So I guess what that entails is more of like within this support structure that you see in schools, right? Let's say through Danny's school. How have you interacted with that and like help Danny more along with the school, right? So I think earlier what you're saying it was more of having open conversations between you both about what was happening with the wellness center there. So would you be able to share a bit more on that?
Yes, I also pretty much had the same question. I think somebody asked the question earlier regarding you know, what can we do more of? And now that's what I'm looking, just based on the conversations today that we're having, I want to figure out how we can do more, or if there's any services that may be offered, to the parents of these students, to go ahead and keep whatever, progress that they're making going at home. So I guess my question is the same as Diane's, because I definitely want to do more and try to, I want to be able to, relate to Danny more and any other child that I come in contact with, because I also have a youth organization as well.
Thank you so much. Perfect. No,
Yeah, can I step in with one question?
yes.
From the Q&A, I think it's just because of the internet. Maybe it's not being shown. But this is a question from Imelda and Jessica. And the question is, can LA Cata work in other schools/districts? Or how could I find a similar support for my school/district? And we were thinking, Carolina, you would be the one to speak about this since they're very interested in possibly bringing it to them.
That would be awesome. Right now, we're based in SPA 7 here in Los Angeles County. I mean, if there's interest, if there's need, it's me bringing that to upper management, to corporate, see how we could expand our services. And as I read the question and I looked at where West Contra Costa district is at, and it's in Richmond, California. I think we're way, you guys are up north and we're down south. But if there's any other agency that's nearby that I can look into, I'm here to support in any way I can. If there's any other neighboring agencies, but we would love to provide, the support to surrounding communities. But I could definitely take it to upper management, or else they'll be moving me up there, you know? No, but I'll definitely be sharing this information. I read some of the other districts as well. I saw District of Pomona, which is not too far, but I'm just more than happy to bring that to upper management and corporate.
Perfect. Thank you, Carolina. And Jessica for uh, excusing my slow internet.
No, you're good. We actually have one more question, if that's okay.
Oh, we do. Oh, perfect. Yes.
We're like tag
Please.
teaming here,
Yeah, I
all
love
about
that.
improvising. Okay, so from the chat, how can parent voice become part of the systems of support? Maybe we can have one or two person answers. Sounds like Leslie, and if anybody else, and this will be our last question.
Okay. So
Go
I
ahead,
raised
Leslie.
my hand for this because I am super excited about this. So integrated support systems are actually only just one part of community schools. But the most transformational part of community schools actually is shared decision making and shared power with our young people and our families, right? Because it's born from this belief that actually our young people and their parents know exactly what they need to thrive and grow, right? Like if we were to ask Danny and Naomi, what do you need to thrive and grow? What do you hope for in your educational experience? It would be very easy for them to say, I need this, I want this, all of that, right? Whether you're 17 or 7 years old. But how do we harness that actually? Is that they're at this decision-making table, that they're at the decision-making table about like, how do we spend our budget? What are the priorities of the school? What are the needs? What are the hopes of our young people, right? And so community schools is designed to actually flip the paradigm of this hierarchical structure where it's like the principal that makes all the decision is like this all seeing thing, but actually it's actually the opposite. Young people are the wisest people in the room around their own experiences and what they need to thrive and grow. Their parents are the best experts on their children. Educators are experts on teaching and that kind of stuff. And then how do we actually create a system where actually those voices are actually at the decision making table, right? And that's the most transformational part of community schools, in my opinion, right? And so when we're talking about how do families get involved, all that kind of stuff, is that we access the wisdom and leadership that you already possess. If families aren't doing that at school sites, it's because we as adults, and when I say we, I say me included in that, we have not built up the conditions for that to happen. We've been actively oppressing and not allowing that voice to actually happen, right? So how do we flip the script and actually be intentional about that, right? And so in San Francisco, we are very intentional about everybody, like the school site councils, that's where it's at, right? Like, and we are intentional about building up those school site councils. We also in our teachers contract, we actually have language that basically says that power has to be shared with our communities. It mandates it, right? And so I think the thing that we have to like really be thoughtful of is that community schools is meant to flip the script on that. Integrated systems of support is just one part of that, but young people and families in particular have to be at the decision-making table. We have to not only allow that, we have to encourage it, and we have to set the conditions for that to be successful. And so, okay, done. Sorry, that's sort of my soapbox.
No, that was actually very, very, very detailed. And I love that you highlighted so clearly the shared and collective vision of focusing on the needs of youth and family and to create this collective shared decision rather than a hierarchical decision-making structure. So that's the new kind of beauty in decision-making that community school has been able to imagine. Wow, that's a super incredible and then like insightful panel. So thank you all the panelists for sharing your amazing wisdom and experiences with us all. Um, and as well as the audience for the thoughtful questions. So I'll pass it back to Jessica.
Thank you, Nia. Thank you again to the panelists. And to Nia, we couldn't have thought of a better person for you to facilitate this very, courageous conversation. And I think you all leave us with a lot of inspiration and tools for how to continue building community for each other. So again, also a big thank you to our interpreters and our tech and our staff. And you'll see in the chat, we're going to be sharing the website where you can watch today's recording in a few weeks. And you can also see our past sessions in English, Spanish, and Arabic.